I know there's a saying. Now, this part I want you to answer. This is going to hurt me more than it's going to hurt you. Because sometimes that's not true.
That's not true.
Sometimes parents are vindictive and their disciplining serves them and not the child.
Right.
Can you speak to that and what that looks like when the discipline serves the parent, the father, and when it is like difficult? How to do it when it's difficult. So it's a two-part question. One, what does it look like when parents are they love the way they're venting, they're getting something out of the discipline and the child is not?
I think that in the sense
it serves them.
Well, there's a whole in business. This is business, not personal. I think the challenge is that the parent takes it personal.
Both ways, huh?
Yeah, I think the parent takes it personal.
Right.
And when you start to take it personal, now it becomes adversary. The child becomes an adversary.
Offensive. You're offended.
And so because you are offended, you take it so personal. Now when you take it personal, you step out of the role of the parent. Mm-hmm. And now on the level of the child.
That's good.
Because you take it personal.
Right.
Because as a parent, my responsibility is to teach, to guide, to give insight. And now when you take it personal, like I'm gonna get you. Oh, I know you meant that. I'm gonna get you. You're gonna get some of this, right? Mm-hmm. You now
celebrating.
I'm getting excited. I beat his. I sure am gonna get. We celebrate. Now you forfeited your responsibility as a parent.
A loving.
And now you put yourself on the same level as the child.
Right, and you've just fallen from God's order because God doesn't do that to us.
Can I tell you something? Now you become the disciplinarian to the oppressor. You come from the disciplinarian to the oppressor.
That's good.
Because now you're in the position to cause harm. You're in the position because your mindset is there. Mm-hmm. And now because you're in that position, you become the violator of what discipline was meant to be.
Wow.
And so you change the process of discipline and it becomes punishment.
The oppressor.
It becomes the oppressed. I want to keep my thumb on you, or you're going to feel this thumb on you, or you're going to feel it. Does that make sense?
That's good, yeah.
And so discipline was always meant to correct a course.
Right.
Or to establish a course.
Right.
That's what discipline does. Every discipline affects another discipline. And so discipline either affects a course or changes a course. And that is the reason for discipline. That's the very nature of the word. When you look at discipline, the word discipline is a derivative even of disciple, a student. Mm-hmm. You're establishing a course of action or a pattern of behavior or habits to instill within the person. And so a disciple, that word disciple is a derivative and it coincides with the word discipline, which is a series of courses or actions that you adhere to in order for whatever betterment of your life. And so when you understand that aspect, when you understand that, and you are giving discipline, you are disciplining your child, you're actually correcting a course of action or behavior.
Okay, so what about when it does hurt you or to discipline, or you want the child to like you, or you feel guilty because you're not quite in that area? How do you discipline under those conditions?
When you want the child to like you.
And or you feel guilty like David.
Where does it say that a parent...
You want them to love you. You don't want to make them mad.
I think love and like is two different things. It's based on the perception of the person. Because it is not my job for my child to like me. It is my job to guide and to instruct and to teach and to nurture and cultivate I may not like my child. We may not.
Well, Pastor, honey, nowadays people will cut you off.
And
you won't see them again. Now, little people can't divorce you, but as you start raising these teenagers and they like disconnect from you, and it becomes hard because what if you want that love because you didn't have that love? What if it's that personal? Like you need these children to love you. You're a pleaser.
I'm going to give you something. I'm going to give you something that this man's saying, that he says, train up a child in the way he must go, and he will not depart. Here's the challenge. The challenge is that the parent first must live up to something that the child respects. If you don't create a world that the child respects, how else are they going to live up to something? Or you don't create that. I was listening to a guy. He was talking about how he says that the parent creates an environment that the child respects. If the child respects that environment, if they respect that environment, they're going to do whatever they need to do in order not to violate that.
So let me say it this way. Maybe you can hear it this way.
Okay, say it.
If you want the favor of your child, maybe the child has he has a stepfather in another family, and you don't want to be the quote unquote heavy
Bad
or
parent.
mean person.
Okay,
That's what I mean.
I got you. Okay, I got you.
How do you discipline under that threat of your child being angry? That's why it's going to hurt me more than it's going to hurt you, meaning that for some parents it is hard because you want to be the Disneyland parent. You don't want to be the bad rejected parent. So as a father, how do you do that?
It's still right.
You know, like how do you do that? Like, how do you pass that? Okay, everybody in the house may be mad at me, the mama and the child, but I have to do this. Yeah. How do you do that?
You still have to. I mean, that God does the same thing. You may, and we don't always smile when we get in trouble with God. When we get into those issues of correction. Correction is not always going to be liked. It's not always going to be a feel-good moment. That's what correction does. That's what discipline does. Discipline corrects the course of action.
Right.
Even if you have to play the heavy, again, that comes back to a level of responsibility and understanding I see the forest from the trees. And you have to see the bigger picture because of what I'm doing and what I'm establishing. It's not an issue of like. One, as a child develop and they get older, they're going to respect the fact of correcting a course of action which could cause more harm and detriment in their future.
Right. I would say, too, that you don't get your needs met through your children.
Right.
Because if you're trying to get your needs met through your children, you're going to try to please them.
Right.
And so you're not going to want to say no, or you're not going to want to take the phone. You're not going to want to do those hard things. And mommy, we have the tender heart.
Right.
And it's very off-putting or lopsided when the moms are stronger than the dad.
Right.
Because some moms are enforcers and some dads are just they feel guilty. Maybe they don't have money. Right. Maybe they don't have power and influence in the home, so they kind of just want to be the Disneyland dad.
Right.
And the mom is the heavy.
Right.
You know, and they let the mom, kind of like Moses and Zipporah, they let the mom do the circumcising and the cutting and the disciplining because they are weak or they don't want to upset the apple cart. Like they want to have that like ability with their children. That's a big thing when you triangulate and you want this relationship with your children to the point that you no longer can discipline them because you want to please them. Right. You want them to like you. You know, you want to be the cool one. You want them to, love you because you need that love. When that happens, because dads need love too.
Right. But won't you become the hostage?
There are many hostages.
You end up becoming the hostage instead of operating within the role that you have a God-given role.
Right.
You have a God-given role. And for me to relinquish my God-given role for the sake of being hostage to a set of feelings of how I want a child to feel about me. Now it's like playing dice. Now you leave it up for the spin of the dice.
Right. Can I tell you this psychologically before we go into our next question? What that is too is that sometimes fathers don't want their kids to feel about them the way they feel about their fathers.
I got you.
Because they know very well that they don't like their father. Their father has failed them, so they set out to be, my child is going to love me.
I got you.
My child is going to
adore me,
be favorable, sing my praises, and they won't feel about me
how I feel
the way I feel about my dad.
Right. But you know what?
So it makes you tiptoe around people and be a prisoner, like you said.
And that's the unfortunate lot that fathers have. Mm-hmm. That mothers are loved, fathers should be respected. And I think that's we got to put that in perspective,
right?
Because the role and responsibility, again, that doesn't negate the fact that mothers are that they can discipline.
Right.
It does not negate the fact. But normally mothers are loved, fathers are respected, and so the challenge is that I have to hold a line to where at the end of the day, my children can respect me as their father. My role, I may not be the goo eye, but they know don't cross that line. They know, the
right.
responsibility. And then even as hypothetically, even as the children grow up, they vicariously take on some of the traits. Like the boys, they take the traits of their father.
Right.
That doesn't necessarily mean, now granted, they may not agree with how their father did things, they may not like
right.
it, but they sure can respect it, especially if you have a godly man.
Right.
A man that's trying to exhibit and be example as a man of God, a godly man. You may not like every decision that I made,
right.
but when you come into the role of fatherhood, then you get to understand some of the decisions that were made.
Right, right. And what about this, Pastor? When you have men who have gone astray, and then they come back, and then their children repeat their behavior, and then they're silent, like David. I think David lost his voice. And sometimes I think some of you men have lost your voice because you feel like a hypocrite because your kids are smoking and you used to smoke, or they're sexually like promiscuous serial cheaters because you cheated on their mom. Right. And so now when you come back and you're trying to get it together, how do you reestablish that?
I think that you reestablish relationship. Right is right.
Because David couldn't do it. David never did it.
But that doesn't mean that
that I know of.
That doesn't mean that you stay silent when you see your child killing themselves, or you see that there's self-harm, or you see that there's a direction that they're going. At the same time, you have to, when you come back around, you have to reestablish something that was not built in the first place.
Right.
And so what you do is you reconnect and you rebuild, or you start building from where you didn't build.
Right.
And so what you do is you gotta reconnect and you gotta start building. And here's the other thing. I don't think sometimes men, I don't think that we're honest and honest with ourselves, nor are we honest with our children. And you know what? I wasn't there. Not being there, everything that I'm doing from here on out is to show forth and give an example that I'm going to make up this time for not being there.
Right.
And then you build where they're at. Now, be careful. You got to be realistic, because the thing that you come back to, it won't look like the thing that you want it to look like or want it to be. That's going to take some real work.
Right. And it does take also forgiving yourself 100%. Because God has forgiven you. Right. So some fathers are muted because maybe they've done something, they've done prison time.
Right.
Maybe they've, did something that was detrimental to their family.
Right.
Or to the mother or to the family, even down to molestation.
Right.
And something heinous.
David said something that's I think that if we take the same posture of David said in Psalms 51, he says, I will teach the transgressor a different way. Mm-hmm. So as a father, you have a great opportunity. If you weren't there, you went to prison, or you were derelict in your responsibility, or you were just immature. Right. You can say, you know what, following your sword, I was wrong. Right. I was wrong, and I should have been there. Right. And as I'm being there now, here's the other thing. How you move forward, you can't say, call me daddy, and all of a sudden that child, you've been out of the child's life for 15 years, 20 years, and think that they're going to automatically respect you. Because what happens is there's this honeymoon period as they come back, because the child wants and desires for their parent to be in their life. As you come back, know this, the first negative encounter, the fallback is you weren't there. Right. And so you can't come in with the hammer and hammer.